Good morning. Welcome to Sunday. Um, Greetings to the people I can see on Zoom and those of you who I cannot see on Facebook, and anybody who may be watching on YouTube later. Nice to be here with y'all. I am in my new home, and I am happy to welcome you all here. Today, we're going to talk about self-acceptance. That feels like a good place to continue on where I've been the last few weeks. Um, Most of the last couple of weeks, I've been talking about accepting our emotional experience, accepting our experience in general. Um, and today I thought I would talk about self acceptance and perfectionism, which are kind of opposites. So we'll get to that shortly. But what I want to say about that in terms of meditation, one of the most frequent questions I see regarding meditation, especially from people who are new, am I doing it right? And the answer is yes, you are. Um, you cannot do it wrong. In fact, the doing it is the doing it. So, meditation is, among other things, about acceptance and accepting our experience as it comes, as it is. And one of the things that is simply true is that the mind thinks, the mind makes noise, the mind wanders off. There's nothing we can do about it. Uh, the people who have completely tamed that show up every few hundred years. So what I've heard referred to as the manual labor of meditation is when we notice that we've wandered off, we just notice that without doubt or recrimination or wondering whether we're doing wrong, without getting involved in the content of the thought stream. When we notice that, we just come back gently, firmly. It's kind of like teaching a dog to heel. You're walking down the street with the dog on the leash, and the dog wanders off, and you pull it back. It's not more complicated than that. You don't pull it back and scream at it and yell at it and kick it and meet it with anger. No, it's a puppy. You just lovingly, gently, firmly bring it back. Same thing with the mind when you notice it wandering off. So you may have to do this many, many, many times during the course of a meditation. That's okay. One of the things that held me with that part of the training was whenever I noticed that I had gone off somewhere into some thought stream and was coming back, I'd say to myself, all good. So I invite you to maybe try that practice. When you notice that you've wandered off and you're coming back, just say, all good, and continue. But first, let's meditate. I invite you to find a comfortable meditation posture where you can be relaxed but alert. You might want to just push in your chin a little bit so that if there was like a string on the crown of your head, it would like straighten your top of your spine and your neck without straining or stretching the muscles in your neck and shoulders. If you're sitting upright, just in a natural upright position without slouching, letting your back fall into its natural curve. Um, some people have been in touch with me from time to time. They have back issues, so they prefer to meditate laying down. If you're going to do that, that's fine. There's all kinds of meditation postures. If you're meditating and laying down, I suggest you rest your one arm on the floor with your hand in the air, so your arm's at a 90-degree angle. That way, if you fall asleep, your hand will come down, you'll wake up. Falling asleep in meditation is no big deal. People do it. Um, it just means you might be tired. So I invite you to just start by lowering your gaze like down the bridge of your nose. That relaxes the muscles around your eyes. And gently close your eyes. And let's start by taking a few slow, deep breaths just to get connected to the body. And as you exhale, just begin the process of relaxing, softening, relaxing the face muscles, letting your eyes just sort of rest back in their sockets. Breathing in, slow breath out all the way out. Relaxing your shoulders and your belly. And letting the breath return to normal. Noticing the sensations of the body, the feelings of your feet or your legs touching the floor or whatever you're sitting on. The feelings of your hands resting in your lap. The feelings of your bottom on the cushion. The feeling of your body just in this space, the ambient temperature of the room, whatever sounds you notice around you. Just being aware of the moment. And let your attention come to your breathing. Just being aware of the sensations of the body breathing in. Aware of the sensations of the body breathing out. Where are the sensations of the air moving in and out of your nose? And just rest your attention, your awareness, your focus on the sensations of the body breathing, whatever that looks like to you. Noticing the sensations of the belly and the chest expanding. Noticing the sensations of your body transitioning from an in-breath to an out-breath. Noticing when your body transitions at the bottom of the exhale to the next inhale. And just writing whatever rhythm you notice or don't notice, just writing the sensations and the rhythm of the body breathing in and out. When your mind wanders off into thought, which it will, all good. Just come back to focus, resting your awareness on the breath. Breathing in, breathing out. Accepting yourself and your experience as what it's supposed to be. You notice that you're thinking, your mind has wandered off. It's all good. Just come back gently, compassionately with yourself. And refocus your attention on the body breathing. And as we come towards the end of this sitting, may whatever benefits you receive from this practice today enable you to move around the world a little more centered, a little more calm. And to meet the world and meet the people you encounter with kindness and compassion. Even in those difficult moments. And may it be that the benefits of this practice blow the dust off our eyes to view the world with kindness. Maybe that with this practice we can radiate kindness, compassion into our households, into our neighborhoods, into our towns, to the people we meet, people in our homes, the clerk at the grocery store, somebody you smile at walking down the street. May the benefits of this practice be of benefit to all beings everywhere. May all beings be happy. May all beings be well. May all beings be safe. May all beings be at ease and at peace. And may we contribute to that. Thank you all for your practice. Nice to see y'all. Welcome, Barbara. I'm not sure I've seen you here before, but I also have a memory like a sieve. So unless you've been here like a half a dozen times, yeah, that's just the way it goes. Nice to be with you all. As usual, I put the usual information in the chat, how to find these sessions on Sundays. I'm contemplating adding another one during the week. I'll let you all know about that. And if you're on the Facebook group, I'll announce it there. If you're on my mailing list, you'll see it there, my email list. Anyway, put the usual information in the chat, how to find this group, how to get in touch with me, my website, my email address. And if you feel so moved, a link to make a donation, though this is not a solicitation and it is not required. I do this for fun and for free. So I've been talking the last few weeks about accepting our experience and being with it and not rejecting those parts of ourselves that need a little more care. And that seems like a good bridge to talk about the idea of radical acceptance, which is a term that I get from Tara Brach, her book, Radical Acceptance. And in that, she offers the idea that we live in a culture where self-acceptance is a radical idea. And it's hard to argue with that. But it may be the most important thing we can learn. We live with dissatisfaction. That's the first noble truth. Dukkha, life includes suffering, is one translation. Dissatisfaction, grief, whatever. Sometimes we feel anxious that we're not having the life that we've envisioned, or it doesn't look as good as it does in those Facebook posts from our friends, or we're celebrating the moment of our lives. Some of us have trouble feeling good about ourselves in our lives. You're not alone. It's a big club. We don't honor self-acceptance in this culture. And I've told this story over and over again. It really is a cultural thing. The Dalai Lama came here, and it was first explained to him the idea of self-esteem, and that people struggle with that. It made him cry because it had never occurred to him that people would feel bad about themselves. So it's something we do in the culture. It's not a natural state. And I talked last week about hearing a quote from Suzuki Roshi, who founded the San Francisco Zen Center, when somebody asked him what enlightenment is. And he said, realization is imperfection without anxiety. I just love that. Realization is imperfection without anxiety. There's just a simplicity to that I admire. we struggle to accept ourselves the way we are and to liberate ourselves from this gnawing feeling that we're not okay because we have unresolved issues or we have unhealed grief or we have difficult life circumstances, or we don't look I don't look like the cover of Men's Magazine, and none of the women look like the cover of Cosmo. Nobody actually looks like that. Those women are airbrushed to look that way. We don't look like the cast of Grey's Anatomy. And they don't show people who look just normal on television a whole lot. Everybody on TV is beautiful. Our lives are simply not perfect. And I'm not diminishing the pain of those issues and the traumas and the things that we struggle with, because it's for real. But what I'm suggesting is we can learn to be okay, to know we're okay, even when we're uncomfortable. The truth is, we're not perfect. Our work isn't perfect, our relationships aren't perfect, our lives are just plain not perfect. And unfortunately, that's a very difficult truth for some people. When I was doing therapy, every now and then a client would say, I want to be perfect. And I would say, well, what if we are? This is it. The great sage Lenny Bruce used to say, these are the jokes, they don't get funnier. What if we were to accept ourselves as we are in this moment? Because that's the jumping off point from where we can foster growth and make changes. This is so common that Tara Brach quotes Mother Teresa in her book. And Mother Teresa, who worked in the worst slums of the worst poverty in the world, said the biggest disease of today is not leprosy or tuberculosis, but rather the feeling of not belonging. This thing we carry around on it, whether it's like a brick on a leash and we're trying to walk it. And many people just struggle to accept and love themselves with the imperfections, not in spite of it, but with it all. Not like making an exception, well, I'm okay, but there's no but. I've said before, but is the great eraser. It erases everything that comes before it. Julie, I like you, but I wish you wouldn't wear green t-shirts, which means I don't really like you, but I would if you were different in my vision. Right? There's no but. Just learning to accept ourselves as we are, not despite things, but with everything, with all the imperfections in our lives. And when I was still working as a shrink, I used to refer to this struggle as the common cold of psychotherapy. But what if it does turn out to be true that we're fine right now, just the way we are, with all of it? After all, perfection is not achievable. Sure, we give lip service to the idea that we're not perfect while at the same time suffering symptoms of some form of perfectionism, right? Imperfection with anxiety. Some people I've talked to about this suggest that radical acceptance is a slippery slope. They view it as a form of resignation or just accepting our limitations. I've heard people say that if they accept themselves, they'll lose the incentive to improve their lives. But none of that is actually true. We can only begin to change when we accept ourselves as we are and not exclude the aspects of ourselves from our gaze. How am I supposed to address something if I don't look at it? Right? In the 12-step parlance, and when they get to the 6th step, they say, became entirely ready to have the God of your understanding remove these defects of characters, not terminology that I really like. To me, entirely ready means I'm going to look right at it and say, I am that. And decide that That's fine. I'm okay. If I can't embrace it, I can't let go of it. We can only begin to change when we accept ourselves as we are and not exclude the aspects of ourselves that are difficult to look at. We have to look directly at the difficult aspects of our lives. That's the only way we can grasp what we need to change or what we want to change. And radical acceptance does not mean accepting our limitations with, oh, well. As I say, it involves looking at whatever limitations we feel we have without rebuke. This is a compassionate exercise. This is a gentle, I've said over and over again about meditation and everything I'm trying to teach. This is a gentleness practice. We look right at that without rebuke. We refuse to give in to the fear that we can't grow or change. Now, fear is for real. It shows up as a feeling. But it doesn't have to inform. We can fully honor our fears and our anxieties and our perceived limitations, and we can accept ourselves not in spite of them, but with them. Then we can engage the work of change and growth. And also, self-acceptance does not offer an opportunity to withdraw, but it offers an opportunity to engage. If we decide we're okay, I decide I'm okay with my body, even though I'm never going to make it to the cover of Men's Magazine or GQ. If I can't do that, I can't do anything about it. Not if there's anything I need to do about it. We can engage even when it's a little scary and the outcome is uncertain. And self-acceptance, one of the myths of self-acceptance is it leads to kind of passivity. I've heard people say that if we accept injustice and the pains and the imperfections of our lives, then we lose motivation to change. But the point I'm making here is when we accept our experience of those things, when we accept the outrage of injustice and the grief of witnessing abhorrent behaviors like child abuse or domestic violence, we accept our experience of that, then we can overcome our sense of hopelessness and channel those feelings into a passion for change. I mean, this is what happened when I finished grad school and I started as an intern. I went to work at a clinic that pretty much pioneered the treatment of sexual abuse in families. And it was so hard just to witness. And, as a therapist, I think the most important thing we offer people is we witness. And my initial response is, oh my God, I don't want to see that. It took me a long time and I felt paralyzed by just the enormity of those issues. But the more I was able to look at it and hold those people with compassion and not be afraid of what was being triggered in me, my sense of helplessness, my sense of hopelessness just began to fade. And as I learned to accept my own despair over just the enormity and the things people are capable of doing to other people, I found a new passion for what I could do. So I ended up working in child and adolescent crisis intervention for a period of time. And I worked with incarcerated teenagers for a period of time. And in a psych facility for severely emotionally disturbed teens. That's where being able to look through the grief and trauma, not reject it, led me. Later on, I was in private practice, and one of my specialties was in helping people recover from childhood trauma. And I was only able to do that by accepting my experience of whatever was being presented to me. if I had turned away from my own trauma, my own despair, I might have been unable to do any of that. I might have quit, made a living as a freelance writer for tech companies, which is what I was doing through grad school. I would have been extremely bored, but reasonably well paid. Nonetheless, it's not perfect. It's still not perfect. I'm learning to be okay with that. And the thing I have to remember, the thing that's important about radical acceptance and self-acceptance, is it's not a destination, like forgiveness. It's not a destination. It's not an act. It's a process that we engage. It's not something we achieve and then we're done with it. I believe it's a process we engage that moves us forward towards healing and growth, towards a better appreciation of ourselves and our lives. One of my favorite books is by a woman named Jeannie Dupro. I think it should have been nominated for a Pulitzer, but it was like a little publishing company in the middle of nowhere, New York. And I was lucky that Jeannie was my supervisor when I was at the hospice. And she wrote about this so eloquently, in facing her fears and her imperfections and learning to be okay in the midst of a difficult time. And that it's an ongoing process. And she said, and so I remind myself as often as I must, which is quite often, hold still, stay here, put the groceries away, turn on the lights, get dinner ready. Try to remember there is nothing to fear in this moment, and this is the only real moment there is. Later in the book, it's called The Earth House, you should read it. She writes, nobody who has ever tried it says this path is easy. It's just better than the alternative. Psychologist Herb Goldberg, several books on men's psychology, wrote, I have never seen a person grow or change in a constructive direction as when motivated by guilt, shame, or hate. Acceptance, self-acceptance, is the path. It's not perfect. It's never been perfect, and the chances are it's not going to be perfect. But what if we decide today that we're okay the way we are, not in spite of our imperfections in our lives, but with all of it? What if we could accept our imperfection without anxiety, accept ourselves just the way that we are in this moment? What would that be like? I invite you to contemplate that. What would your life look like today? What would your life feel like today? So in the 12-step literature, there's an affirmation I'd like to close with. It says, just for today, I let no one, including myself, try to shame me into changing something about myself I wish were different. I pray to be relieved of guilt and self-hate and to accept and like myself exactly as I am. That is where I can begin to change. Thank you for your kind attention. Any comments, questions?
I have a question for you, Ken. This is somewhat unrelated, but I've been feeling sick this week. I was
Sorry to hear that.
testing negative for COVID, but some sort of bad cold, and I can't breathe well. I'm coughing a lot, and I've tried to meditate, but it's hard to focus on breathing when every breath is a bit of a struggle, and all you can think about are your nostrils burning and how it's hard to breathe. So how can you meditate when you're having trouble breathing?
I'll tell you a brief story about that, and I'll offer my thoughts on that. I was at a meditation retreat with Gil Fonsdale, this probably 15 years ago, and I had the cold from hell. Right, all the way through the retreat. And,
oh man!
On retreats you get these 15-minute meetings with the teacher. They're called interviews, And I'm in this little room with Gil, and I'm saying, "Look, man, like, sit back." And I'm like, and he looked so pained, for me. Um,
Yeah.
Meditation is not about breathing. It's about how you relate to your experience. I've talked before from time to time about our experience being in two parts. Here's what happens. Here's what we tell ourselves about what happened. Um, I like to meditate with my mouth closed and breathe through my nose. The air quality in the Louisville, Ohio River Valley is really bad if you have issues with pollen, which I do. So that's just not in the cards. So on some days, better life through decongestants, I guess, which I try to avoid. So whatever you can do is whatever you can do. You're not trying to meditate. You are in fact meditating. It's just you're meditating through something difficult. Feeling sick. Yuck. I hope that passes fairly quickly. But it's a really great opportunity for self-compassion.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Cherish.
And Cherish writes, perhaps trying using sounds or body sensation as an anchor. Thank you for that. Because the breath thing is not the point. The point is that the exercise is to find an anchor, to anchor ourselves in the present moment. That can be the feeling of your feet on the floor, your butt in the chair. My back is complaining the last couple of days. I slept in these really soft beds in Airbnbs for the last month, and I moved into this house and slept in like the firmest bed money can buy. And my back said, "Oh no, you don't." So my back has been complaining. That could be the first day of meditating with that. It's like, oh my god, the pain turned out to be the anchor, whether I liked it or not.
Oh, really?
So
yeah, I was thinking of using music or something else to, rather than focusing on the breath.
Some people chant mantras, Om Mani Padme Hum.
I've tried that too in the past, yeah.
Yeah, or just Om. I've heard it said Om or Om is the sound of the universe vibrating. I know somebody who uses a metronome. It doesn't have to be the breath. I hope you feel better soon.
Thank you. Thanks, Ken. Thanks, everyone.
I'm not a licensed healthcare practitioner, but I'll tell you a short story. When I was in India, I went to a drugstore, which is a room not much bigger than this one, with little bottles everywhere and a little guy behind the counter. And I said I was looking for vitamin C and echinacea. And he knew what vitamin C was, and he gave me this little bottle of herbal bit C. He never heard of echinacea. But he gave me this stuff called Gaduchi. He goes, 2 Ds twice a day, I won't get sick. So I did take 2 Ds twice a day. I was the only one of the 14 of us who did not get sick. Right. So I have to order it online. It's called Gaduchi. It's good for the immune system. I hope you feel better quickly. Anything else? Anyone else? Hi, Barb. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I enjoyed it.
Hope to see you here again.
You will.
Good morning, Ed, Stanley, Cherish. Nice dog.
Thank you.
A dog looked just like that, named Jack. Named him after Jack Kerouac. Well, if there's nothing else, we're coming up on 10 o'clock. I thank you all for spending this time with me this morning. And I'll see y'all next week.
Thank you.